Alright, let's do the second half of rock and roll, where I'm going to take you through a bunch of decades of different types of rock and roll and how the music changed throughout time, okay? So, started in the 1950s, but many people thought it was just a rebellious fad that teenagers were going through, and that it would not stick around and we'd go back to the normal, pretty calm, churchy kind of music of the past. It was developed by many R&B singers like Chuck Berry of the African American community, and then their songs were covered by white singers, because remember, this is in the time of the civil rights movement and segregation, so it was not in mainstream American music for African American singers to be in that same genre as white singers, so they kind of covered each other's songs. But it was brought into the mainstream by Mr. Elvis Presley, aka the King of Rock and Roll. So after Jerry Lee Lewis came Elvis Presley, and mothers across the nation were just astounded because he shook his legs and hips during the performance, and it was just vulgar, and they didn't want their teenage girls to watch. So this performance I'm going to show you here was on TV, but the censors on the TV decided that it was too vulgar to show the nation, so they just showed the nation from the chest up, so nobody saw his legs or his hips during that performance.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog. You cry all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Cry all the time. Well, you ain't never heard of rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine. Well, they said you was high class. Well, that was right. Yeah, they said you was high class. Well, that was right. Yeah, you ain't never heard of rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a hound
Shocking, right?
crying all the time. You ain't nothing.
Shocking. He shook his legs and hips. Woo! Too much. Too much. Oh, he was dreamy looking. Alright, then we move on to the 1960s and soul musicians. James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles start becoming more mainstream American. And it's the evolution of Motown from Detroit, Michigan. Okay, so this specific sound that Detroit coined, that includes stars like Diana Ross, The Supremes, Stevie Wonder, and makes this mainstream. One of the most famous karaoke songs ever.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect, just a little bit, hey, baby, just a little bit, oh, just a little bit, mister.
She's so cute. Love that song. Anytime you go to karaoke, somebody is gonna sing Respect. Then there's these guys that kind of invaded American music. They're from Liverpool, England. The 1960s is known as the British invasion. It's the Beatles. You might have heard of them before. John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And they dominated American music scene, starting with their American tour in 1964. Now, they did come to New Orleans in 1964. I was not alive yet, thank you very much. But my mom wanted to go really, really bad, and my grandmother wouldn't let her, and my mom's still mad at her today because she wouldn't let her go to that concert. So notice all these screaming girls. This would have been your grandmother at a concert.
Oh yeah, tell you something. I think you'll understand when I say that something. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your
to scream during the whole thing. Also in the 1960s, this different type of kind of folk music kind of folded into the rock and roll scene, and kind of dealt with subjects like the Vietnam War was starting up, social injustices, and Bob Dylan was the king of protest music. Now, it's not my cup of tea, but I can appreciate how talented Mr. Dylan is. Watch how he plays the guitar and the harmonica and sings all at the same time.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? Yes, and how many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they fall out of the band? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. How many years must a mountain exist?
I mean, that's pretty talented, right?
Before it is washed to the sea?
We all know I'm super shallow, so this is all too deep for me. But I can appreciate it. Now, we get into the 1970s, and things just get weird. Just weird, okay? Thousands of discotheques start featuring recorded music, okay? So not necessarily live music. And Donna Summer was the disco queen and inspired many movies like John Travolta's Saturday Night Fever. That's where this comes from, okay? And several other dances. So I love how cringy this kind of music video is. The French poodle hair to the microphone that's just vulgar at this point, and the spandex and the guy dancing, woo, yeah, too much, so cringy. So in the 80s, I was a kid of the 80s. It was this return to the idealism of the 1960s, kind of like the protest music, but they were all doing it for good causes. Okay, charity was a big deal. And so Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, who you might recognize Lionel Richie as a judge for American Idol now, wrote this song called We Are the World, and we were all singing it. Notice how everybody else is in like a sweatshirt, and then notice what Michael's wearing. Always bedazzled.
When we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one, there are people dying. Oh, when it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can't go on pretending day by day that somewhere will soon make a change. We are a part of God's great big family, and the truth, you know, love is all we need.
We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day. Just you and me. Well, send them your heart, so they know that someone cares, and their lives will be
Stronger and free, as God has shown us by turning stone to bread. And so we all must lend a helping hand. We are the world, we are the children,
My childhood.
we are the one to make a brighter day. So let's start giving. Oh, let's make
We're saving our whole lives. Okay, so we sang it over and over and over and over and over. Loved it. But also in the 80s, women start being featured as major entertainers. This is when Madonna, Queen Latifah, Cyndi Lauper start becoming big stars. So you might recognize Cyndi Lauper because she does like prescription drug commercials now. I'm feeling very old. But she wrote one of my most favorite songs in the whole wide world. Love this song. That's why every time we have like a volleyball game or whatever, and Dr. Bernard's DJ, and he always plays this song for me. He knows how much I loved it. I had the Cyndi Lauper haircut, where it was like shaved on one side and long on the other. I'm pretty sure I burned all the pictures. I had the hat, I had the gloves, I had it all. Loved her. Also in the 80s, big old guys with this big hair bands was like an alternative to the candy pop kind of rock of the 80s. So John Bon Jovi, that was him then, and he has aged very well. Okay, just don't do drugs, people, because that's what you get to look like if you don't do drugs. And he was super popular for Living on a Prayer. I bet you know it.
What's the
takes me back. All right. So, Bon Jovi, I think he and Prince Harry, or formerly known as Prince Harry now, I guess, they're recording a new song for the Invictus game. So that should be pretty fun. Then we move into the 90s. So, along with pop and grunge and Brit pop and industrial rock and all these other alternative rock stuff, punk rock stuff, emerged some powerful superstars. These superstars of music, like Whitney Houston. Oh, she's beautiful. Mariah Carey, Janet Jackson. After this video came out, the very next Monday, because this came on like a Saturday morning, the very next Monday at school, we all had on pink and blue eyeshadow just like Whitney. Could pull off that blue and pink eyeshadow and make it look pretty, but all the rest of us tried it. Then in the 1990s, it was also the era of boy bands, and you had to pick a side. Either you were Team NSYNC or you were Team Backstreet Boys. I have to say, I was Team NSYNC. I was totally in love with guess who? Mr. Timberlake himself. What would boy bands be without these synchronized dancing? So cute. Alright, so since the 2000s, you tell me, you're the ones writing history now. So, how do songs become popular today? You don't have to wait on the radio or wait on MTV to play your music video. Y'all have YouTube and all this other stuff that you just get stuff instantly. And then how does rock influence society today? Do we still copy their trends? Do you still want to wear the same eyeshadow as they do? Do you still want to cut your hair like they do? Yeah, you do. Okay. Then let's talk about rap. Rap is a special kind of rock and roll. The definition is rhythmically accented poetic recitation. So, rhythmically R, accented A, poetry. Oh, rap. Okay? Accompanied by a disc jockey who manipulated recordings on 2 turntables that makes that sound, right? To create that collage of rhythmic effects. It started in urban areas, meaning cities, on the East Coast. Okay, so the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight is kind of said to be the first recorded hip-hop rap to go mainstream America. Mostly rap back then was just performed live and ad-libbed as they went along, but they decided to record this one. I'm not an advocate of watching things that are not good for you, but if you ever watch on Comedy Central Drunk History, Questlove does a recording of how the Sugar Hill Gang and rap music got started, and it is hilarious. Let's see what you think about this.
Here's Wonder Mike, Hank, and Master G, the Sugar Hill Gang.
Now what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat. And me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I like to say hello. I'm to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple, and yellow. But first, I gotta bang, bang, the boogie to the boogie, say up, jump the boogie to the bang, bang, boogie, let's rock. You don't stop, rock the rhythm, that'll make your body rock. Well, so far you've heard my voice, but I brought 2 friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, Hank, sing that song. Check it out. When I belt the dip, the ladies dip, the women fight for my delight. But I'm the grand master with the 3 MCs that shop the house for the young ladies. And when you come inside and to the front, you do the freak spank and do the bump. And when the sucker MCs try to prove the point,
What'd you think?
Or with the serious joy, from song to song and from day
Would
to
that
day.
fly as a rap song today? I don't know. I don't know. Hey? Rap, it just then evolved, okay, to become an outlet for the anger and frustration of urban youth. Run DMC and the Beastie Boys appealed to more mainstream audiences in the 1980s. I love Run DMC. It's tricky, okay? And you might even recognize Penn and Teller. The magicians are in this video.
This speech is my recital. I think it's
Very vital.
To rock around, that's right, on top of tricky. It's the place to go. It's tricky to rock around, that's right, on top is tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky to rock around, that's right, on top is tricky. I met this little girlie, her hair was kinda curly. Went to her house and bust her out, I had to leave it early. So really sleazy, all they just say is please me, or spend some time and rock around. I said it's not that easy. It's tricky to rock around, that's right, on time is tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky to rock around.
Alright, so that's our history of rock and roll. Write down all your notes. If I told you certain dates about like TV came out in the 1950s, rock and roll dances popular in 50s and 60s, those are important. And hope you're being safe. Hope you're well. If you need anything, email me, text me through Remind. We're here for you guys. Okay? Love you.